We are here at Qlik Connect with the Gestalt IT Rundown, and that's going to be our closer look this week. But we're also going to be talking about the very high-profile Live Nation, Ticketmaster, Snowflake data breach, NVIDIA's next-generation Vera Rubin AI chips, the Google Cloud account that got wiped accidentally, Infinidat's new storage platform, as well as Cisco's AI innovations and the news from SAP Sapphire. Tune in as we dive in on the Gestalt IT Rundown. Welcome to the Gestalt IT Rundown, where each time we meet, we run down the IT news of the week with a variable degree of snarkiness. I'm your host, Stephen Foskett, and joining me today, live from the expo floor at Qlik Connect, is Gina Rosenthal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show this afternoon. Hello.
Whatever it is, yes. It's been a busy time here at Qlik Connect. We recorded Tech Field Day sessions. We saw behind-the-scenes stuff. We did the keynotes. We did the analyst session. It was wild. And we're going to be bringing you all the news from Qlik Connect at the end of this show. But before we begin, as always, I have to tell you that today is National Veggie Burger Day.
Ooh.
And as someone who eats a lot of veggie burgers, I have to say, most of them are pretty nasty, but a few of them are okay. Have you had a veggie burger?
I have had a veggie burger. Do you have a go-to that's your favorite, that's delicious?
Impossible!
Oh, you like the
Yes.
Impossible Burger?
I like the Impossible Burger, as long as it's cooked right, which unfortunately most of them aren't.
Sorry.
So let's get into the news stories this week. First off, Live Nation, parent company of Ticketmaster, filed a data breach report with federal employees for an event that occurred on May 20th. A bad actor was selling their customers' data on the old dark web, and they attributed the breach to a third-party cloud database, which turns out to be Snowflake. During the investigation, one of the credentials belonged to a Snowflake employee, and there has been a lot of buzz about this in our industry. Gina, what's your take on this?
Well, this was a really bad one. I think it's a really bad one. So for those of y'all that don't know Snowflake, they're a cloud-based data warehouse. And so you can store all of your data or your data is available through Snowflake, through the platform. And then you can apply all sorts of AI algorithms and all sorts of analytics to your data to make some new findings and do AI. And it's very popular. But what happened was, what Snowflake's blaming it on is misconfiguration, is customers not using multi-factor authentication. But it's interesting that one of the employees that shows up looks to be a salesperson and was only credentials to a demo database. It was only credentials to a demo database. So Snowflake says it wasn't a big deal, but it is actually a big deal because breach forms. We're seeing lots of people showing up on the dark web trying to sell data that they got from this breach. So was this breach from customers downloading info stealers that were able to access the data because they bought their credentials off the dark web someplace else because they didn't have multi-factor authentication set up? It's just kind of hard to believe that Ticketmaster would be running test data on Snowflake without multi-factor authentication, unless maybe what's happening is Snowflake is doing demos. And one of the security forums that I looked at that did an investigation of everything is it looks like the emails were true customer emails, but Ticketmaster was using Snowflake to run tests. Like, can we do these analytics? We'll use these emails with our system and reconfigure the system up here using the Snowflake platform and see if we can push that down to production. But so could this be a dev doing this and trying to do the right thing and figure out how to do the cloud thing, put a credit card down, have the data available in a very cloudy instance where they can train an AI model on it? Or is it really truly Ticketmaster not having third-party authentication, which I can't imagine. I just can't imagine it. You know, Stephen, most tech companies are at Computex this week in Taiwan, and we're already seeing a flood of announcements. In fact, the industry's buzzing following Jensen Huang's announcement of the next generation Rubin GPU platform and associated Vera ARM CPUs. These will replace Hopper and Grace Hopper as NVIDIA's scalable AI platform in 2026 and beyond. And it's excellent to see NVIDIA honor another woman in science with their platform names, in this case, American astronomer Vera Rubin, who passed away in 2016. What do you think of the news?
Well, it's kind of amazing, honestly, that NVIDIA is stealing their own thunder by announcing their next generation platform so soon. Most of us are just barely getting used to Blackwell as the latest NVIDIA platform, but they've announced at the show as well a tick-tock approach to upgrades that reminds us of Intel in the classic period. So we're going to see a super Blackwell Ultra series that's going to come sooner in 2025, and then they'll introduce the Rubin AI platform after that in 2026, and then we're probably going to have a Rubin Ultra after that. In addition, I think that most of us expected that they would be revving Grace, the CPU platform as well, and it turns out, yes, they are. It is nice to see that we're going to get some names that go together nicely here. So there's going to be Vera CPUs, there's going to be Rubin GPUs, and there's going to be Vera Rubin scalable AI processors here. These things are kind of what you would expect they would be. Essentially, we've got more of everything, faster of everything. We've got better, faster, new memory. We've got a new version of NVLink to connect it all together. I guess the only question is, why did NVIDIA think that they needed to announce or pre-announce their next generation platform when they could have just as well said, you know, we're going to do Ultra next year and something new after that. They didn't need to release the names. They didn't need to release any of the specs, but they did. And I guess that suggests that maybe NVIDIA is either running scared or maybe more likely just trying to cement their position and show that they have this incredible roadmap that none of their competitors are going to be able to meet. I guess we'll see how well these things work in reality once they're released. But of course, everybody's gunning for NVIDIA, so now we know where they're going next, and I guess the rest of the industry is going to be forced to respond. UniSuper is an Australian pension fund manager, and it appears that due to a misconfiguration on the Google side, UniSuper had their entire account nuked from orbit, including Google's backups. Google confirmed that this was an unprecedented, one-of-a-kind outage. I've been wondering, what's your perspective on this announcement or this news?
This is horrible. Number one, can you imagine being in charge of all of those pensions and the payments, and your entire platform misappears into the cloud because of what the cloud company did? Thank goodness there was somebody there that insisted that they had a multi-cloud approach, so they were able to piece things together and get back online. So pretty smart for that ops person there. Good job, good job. But it turns out after all of the people did a deep dive into what happened, this was an issue with the way Google Cloud VMware Engine was set up. And it's a really bad mistake, but it's really one you have to learn from, right? So what happened was the Google Cloud VMware Engine private cloud was automatically deleted after a year, after it was stood up and created. And there was big fanfare about how that was being used to get UniSuper from on-prem into the cloud. So there was a bug in the creation script when it was created. It passed a null value, and that made the whole private cloud be created with a 1-year license versus a perpetual license. And when that happened, after the year was up, Google did what it was asked to do and deleted the private cloud from existence, which nuked, as you say, UniSuper into space. So what is to learn from this? To learn from this is, number one, that it is definitely, absolutely possible to lose your data from a SaaS provider. They will do exactly what you've told them to do with your data. In this case, even though it was from a buggy script, Google Cloud was told to delete that private cloud instance in 1 year, and they did it. Honestly, people would be really mad if they didn't do it, if that's what they had intended to happen. So the things that should be happening should be very obvious to all of us by now is, number one, the multi-cloud, especially for your entire instance, is exactly, that strategy is exactly for a tremendous event like this, a business-ending event. So if you have a catastrophic event in Google Cloud or whatever cloud provider you're using, you should have a backup where you can stand that up and business goes along as usual, or as close to usable as possible. The other thing is you should get a SaaS backup product. I know I work a lot with Druva, but there's all sorts of products that will do this. You have to have your backups stored outside of where they're being created. It's great that Google creates a backup for themselves. That's what they do in case of a customer or even an admin created an error. But in this case, there was a script that told it to do a certain thing, and Google believed what that script told it to do and said goodbye to all of UniSuper's production environment, which, woo, can you imagine being on that team? That would have been awful. So I hope they got some rest and some good R&R after that. Infinidat just introduced their biggest update to date, enhancing their Infinidat just introduced their biggest update to date, enhancing their InfiniBox enterprise storage platform with higher performance, cyber resilience, and hybrid multi-cloud offering in Azure and AWS. Lots of enterprise hardware companies have updated their offerings with the latest Intel Xeon CPUs, but Infinidat is headed in a different direction using the latest AMD EPYC processors. Infinidat also claims to be the first high-end storage company to allow customers to upgrade just the controller, keeping their existing media. What differentiates Infinidat from their competitors, Stephen?
Well, Infinidat has always been differentiated by being essentially the biggest, baddest storage engine out there, asterisk, apart from the EMC and Hitachi offerings. Now, Infinidat has impressed me over the years by basically unflinchingly and uncompromisingly offering enterprise-grade storage, the real deal for enterprise-grade customers. It's interesting, though, that the company has increasingly moved toward the software-based storage platform approach that we've seen from basically every other storage system. They have a reputation of being really hardware savvy, but frankly, just like everything else out there, it's really all about the software. Infinidat for the longest time has been using dual socket Intel Xeon CPUs in their controllers. Now they've moved to a single socket AMD platform, and I think that actually has a lot of ramifications and in order to impress us with what AMD has been able to achieve here with their latest EPYC CPUs. Essentially, just as they promised, customers are able to deliver more power, more I/O, more connectivity in a single socket than Intel had in their dual socket offerings until recently. The other aspect of this, as you mentioned, is the fact that Infinidat claims to be the only high-end enterprise storage system that allows you to continue using your old media with a new controller. Whether that's true or not, I guess the other companies may argue, but the bottom line there is that that's actually a really nice, valuable offering in that it allows customers, as the name would suggest, to keep using their existing media going forward. This also, of course, works well with Infinidat's as-a-service customers who are able to contract with the company for storage as a service that can be upgraded and grown as they need it, whether they need additional controller capacity or additional storage capacity. And finally, let's take a look at the cloud. Now, Infinidat has offered their Infuse OS in AWS for a long time. It's nice to see them offering it in Azure. Frankly, Azure has really taken off in the enterprise space as one of the clouds of choice, and so it makes a lot of sense for Infinidat to offer a cloud edition there too. So customers will be able to deploy storage in a hybrid fashion from the data center to the cloud. So overall, I would say it's a really nice upgrade. It really shows what Infinidat is capable of. And, you know, as an extra added bonus, it really shows us, I think, what AMD's CPUs are able to offer in an enterprise platform. At Cisco Live 2024, Cisco unveiled a series of AI-powered innovations aimed at enhancing digital resilience by integrating advanced networking, security, and observability capabilities. Cisco also introduced a $1 billion global AI investment fund to drive industry innovation and customer readiness. Since Tom Hollingsworth is attending Cisco Live for the Futurum Group, let's check in with him on these announcements.
Thanks, Stephen. I know it's a busy week and I'm here at Cisco Live, but I had to talk about a lot of these announcements because unless you were not paying attention during the keynote, you'll notice that AI is everywhere. The big announcement, of course, for me at least, was the Cisco Nexus Hyperfabric AI cluster partnership with NVIDIA. I mean, this has a lot of ramifications for deployment of AI clusters in the immediate future, with Cisco providing a 400 gig, 800 gig leaf spine architecture network. I have some more thoughts on that, but the quick and easy one is that this binds Cisco very closely to NVIDIA and could signal kind of the end of growth of InfiniBand. I think InfiniBand is going to kind of go into more of a maintenance mode, and Ethernet is going to be the primary takeover for what we're going to be talking about. The other thing is the digital experience assurance. It's part of Thousand Eyes. It's using AI to do a lot of things like managing enterprise cloud SaaS performance. We got a great session during Tech Field Day Extra talking all about that, but the assurance is a key word about what they're wanting. It's not just about detecting it. It's about ensuring that people are able to do what they're supposed to do and figure out exactly where the problems are. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if the cloud is your problem, there's not a lot of tuning you can do on your local network. And the digital experience assurance piece gives you the ability to kind of see where those problems are and figure out how to fix them. Of course, the other big announcement was Cisco Hypershield for AMD Pensando DPUs and Intel IPUs. That's AI-driven security architecture. Hypershield is something that they are extremely excited about. We'll probably hear a little bit more about that in August when it releases. But if you can just imagine taking the power of what Cisco's been doing with their cloud security portfolio and allowing it to run on DPUs and IPUs with those accelerator cards that we hear so much about and we talk about so much on the rundown, I think the value there is that you're going to be able to get a lot of massive performance increases while not bogging down your systems. And in the cloud, every clock cycle that you're using to monitor your infrastructure with a server is a clock cycle that you can't sell to a customer. So I think this is going to be something big. And of course, like I said, we talked about AI all over the place. There's a $1 billion AI fund investment that Cisco is making. And Chuck Robbins even said, $1 billion doesn't sound like a lot when you're on, an AI kind of thing, but $1 billion is a lot of money for a single company to invest in AI research and development. But truthfully, one of the things that I saw more than anything else was a cohesive message from Cisco talking all about how AI is going to permeate everything, whether it is your network or your security or the partnership they have with McLaren's F1 team. AI is very present at Cisco Live. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about it, not only from Cisco, but also from the Tech Field Day Extra videos. So make sure you head over to techfieldday.com and youtube.com/techfieldday to check those out.
As you can see, Gina and I are attending Qlik Connect this week in Orlando, and we figured that we would take a closer look at some of the announcements coming out of Qlik and what it means for the wider industry. So first off, Gina, there's been quite a few announcements. On the product side, they talked about Talend Cloud and improving their data pipeline offerings and integrating with Talend, the acquisition that they made a few years back. They also announced Qlik Answers, which is a generative AI system that I think you're going to be talking about a little bit. We also got a look at the United Nations Council on Climate Change. I spent some time with the representative there talking about how data can help address climate change. And of course, Qlik has an AI council of their own to advise them on how best to work in AI spaces. Let's kick things off and take a look. Tell us, Gina, what is Qlik Answers and what was your response to it following their Tech Field Day presentation?
I really like that presentation a lot. And so what Qlik Answers is, it's a AI-powered knowledge assistant that works just out of the box for customers. So you don't have to go through the steps of trying to figure out where do we put the data, how do we chunk the data, how do we make the vector database, how do we do all the things that are required to support an AI-powered knowledge assistant. I think people also forget about how do we continue to support that thing that we've built by hand as time goes on. But it is just something that works on the Qlik platform. You can, what I thought was very interesting is the way that it is it has been programmed, the assistant has been programmed, is if you don't have any information there, even though it's been trained like most of the other AI chatbots have been trained on a very public algorithm that has been trained on all the information on the internet, it simply comes back with, I don't have an answer to your question. So until you give it the filter, which will be your content and your data that you're pulling, whether it's going to be all of your support notes or all of your customer prospecting notes or all of your data sheets and all of your marketing information, it will not respond to you until it has that filter in place that you put, which I thought was pretty cool. So I love the idea that it has this AI, you can make this assistant that is using your data as the filter, but you don't have to do a lot of setup, and you don't have to worry about getting some of the hallucinations that come sometimes from having been trained on the entire crazy internet.
Absolutely, and I think that this is the answer to a lot of the concerns that enterprises have about deploying generative AI-based applications. As you say, the most impressive aspect of it is that it is restricted to only using the data that an enterprise gives it. And as we both saw as well, Qlik is very, very smart about enterprise data quality. And they have a quality score. They have a whole system of determining whether data is relevant, whether it's current, whether it's to be trusted, which sources it came from. Again, another aspect of Answers that I love is the fact that it can even show you where that information is coming from, so you can make sure that it's actually giving you the right information. And of course, all of this stuff can be integrated with enterprise applications in other places as well. So you're not necessarily going to be using the Qlik interface. This might appear as an AI assistant in Salesforce, for example, that would expose competitive information when you're on a call, or it could be exposed, as we discussed in the Tech Field Day presentation, through like Slack integration or something like that. A lot of great ways to use this, and it's pretty impressive stuff.
I really liked it too, because it could also be exposed in Teams. So if you're working on something, all the information you need is right there if that's your collaboration platform. And I liked that. I like that was mentioned about the Qlik Talend Cloud, and as well as Qlik Answers, is their goal at Qlik is not to own your data. They want to get your data from where your data is. They want to be able to get to that data to apply the analytics to it. And when they're using the Qlik Answers, they want you to be where you're working to be able to use that knowledge assistant, which I think is really good. I also like that they talked about this being an answer machine, right? So like we're not really making a search engine, they're making an answer engine available to you to answer the questions from your company that makes sense to your company's data, which is good. And then final thing I liked was that they have a really good handle on how all of this works. And they have a really good thought process in the way they work with their customers, how they described it to us, of understanding that the data is from the people, right? So you've got the data, you're trying to turn it into information. It's a people problem. How do you get the people to get the right data? And that's why they have all of these other types of scores, like you were mentioning, of the validity and the robustness of the data that's being brought in. So I really appreciated that.
So another thing that they talked about was the Talend Cloud. Now, Qlik Cloud has existed for a while, and Qlik and Talend have been merged sister companies for a while as well. The Qlik Talend Cloud brings Talend into the Qlik world. I think it's the first time. And it allows companies to build data pipelines that do some very, very cool things. So for example, you can do data transformations. You can have more advanced transformations, including AI-based transformation and augmentation of data. You can pull data together. You can chunk it and split it and move it around in a way, pretty much any way you want, in kind of a drag and drop interface. And there again, I think the thing that I appreciated by that product was that it's very supportable the way that it leaves you. It leaves you with SQL data, SQL queries that you can then edit and customize and tune, instead of just being a black box for data movement. That, I think, was a pretty powerful discussion, and it was a really nice demo.
It was a great demo. You know, the thing that I thought was really cool was he mentioned it in our demo and also the one that he did on stage today, was that there is a specific way for the data engineers who are building the pipelines to test it and query it, that's not available to the business users, but instead of just like making the pipeline and hoping it's going to work or testing it on live data, they can test it as they're actually building out that pipeline. And I thought that was pretty clever as well, to make sure that they're providing the business with the tool that they're actually expecting to get.
So those were the major product announcements here at Qlik Connect, but they also talked about a couple of other things that I want to hit on before we go. First off, Qlik announced an AI council, which is made up of some pretty impressive people who know a lot about AI. And the point that they're trying to make is, rather than Qlik deciding what they should do in the AI space, they're actually asking experts to advise them on that, which is reflective of what we see from other, smart companies out there in the space.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to all of them speaking here tomorrow in the keynotes, because I'm interested in hearing how they're advising Qlik, because this is not just the AI is going to be altering to the way we do business. It's going to be altering to the way we work with each other. It's going to be altering to it's the next phase of computer science. So it's important to get this right. So I'm interested to see how they're advising this company that's got such great, powerful tools.
And speaking of those tools, another thing that Qlik announced that was kind of interesting to me was that they're supporting the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the people that are responsible for monitoring and reporting on the Paris Agreement in terms of carbon emissions and net zero. And again, this is an example in my mind of Qlik really kind of walking the walk instead of just talking about things. I had the opportunity to talk to Julie Kay, who is just an incredible person here at Qlik, who knows a lot about this stuff. And she was not shy about talking about the impact that AI has in terms of energy demands and climate change and carbon neutrality. And frankly, her statement reflects what I heard when talking to the representative of the United Nations here last evening. He and I spent a good amount of time talking about climate change. And the bottom line is, you can't actually achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement without being able to collect data, bring data together, expose data, report on data, and that's what they're going to do here. And frankly, I'm really, really impressed by the direction that Qlik is taking and the fact that they're making these incredible data tools available for such a globally important cause. Now, Gina, I can always count on you to bring up the hard questions, and that's one reason that I love having you at events like this. What do you think of the UNFCCC announcement and Qlik's overall ESG initiatives and promises?
I think the ESG initiatives sound very good, and it's very it's a relief to hear that that's one of the things they're going to concentrate on and one of the things that's important to them. As far as the UN goes, we'll have to see, because we'll still have to see what kind of teeth they have to do anything, because we know that that's a governmental agency versus businesses that they're trying to make a lot of money. So that's what they do. But having said that, climate change is so important. I mean, I live in Texas. It's just in the 12 years I've lived in Texas, you can see the change in the climate. You know, if you look further south, to the global south, it's absolutely devastating communities and companies. So it's super important to pay attention when you look at the amount of energy and the amount of water, especially, that it takes to train these giant models. And the reason I'm a little hesitant about the UN effort, not to try to downplay it, I think it's vitally important, but I'm also watching the huge companies, the American companies, choose places to build the data centers that are going to train these models and all of the energy and water it takes in states that don't have a lot of regulatory requirements and in states that still have water available, outside of the areas like Nevada or California, where water is scarce already. So I think there has to be a lot more attention paid by the public to what the cost we're going to pay for AI and how will we measure it, and hopefully the UN will have some teeth, and hopefully they'll have some data that's going to be so compelling that everybody will be forced to sit up and pay attention. But that dichotomy between we don't care about regulations and we're going to do what we want to do, and it's the big companies we all love, and see, they're excited about it too. It's all the big companies that we all like to talk about and that we're all interested in that are the doing this. They're moving to places where they're not being regulated on how they're using the Earth's resources, and we cannot build these systems without using a lot of the Earth's resources, and that will impact climate change. It just will. So it's good that they're starting something up. Let's see what they actually do with it.
Let's see what they actually do with it. Well, thank you so much. It's great to have you joining us here on The Rundown. We need to have you come back in the future to co-host The Rundown with me or with Tom. Before we go, let's take a look at what's going on the week ahead. Now, as mentioned, we are live here at Qlik Connect and Cisco Live. We're going to be posting Tech Field Day sessions from Qlik Connect on Thursday and Cisco Live throughout the week. Coming up next week, though, we have the annual 6.5 Summit. I do recommend checking that out. The company, the 6.5 Summit, the complete agenda has been announced now, and there are tons of presentations by some incredible companies there. We also have Cloud Field Day 20, and I'm happy to announce that we have secured an entire day at Google. So we are going to be on the Google campus for an entire day of presentations from Google Cloud. We're going to learn a whole lot about that, along with an incredible session from Juniper with their Apstra system, from Morpheus Data, and a highlight, one of the most requested companies for Field Day, Oxide Computer Company, is going to be presenting as well. We're also going to be at HPE Discover with Aruba. We've got another networking Field Day event coming up. Just a lot of stuff on the calendar. Check out techfieldday.com to learn more about that. Thank you very much for tuning in for the rundown here from Qlik Connect in Orlando, Florida. You can catch new episodes every Wednesday on YouTube or on your favorite podcast application, or now on TechStrong TV. Just check out techstrong.tv for that. We will see you back next week where we talk about all of the IT news from the week that was. Until then, for myself, for Tom Hollingsworth, for Gina, and the rest of us here at Gestalt IT, here's wishing you a clicky day.